yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Arissa and this is Arissa Root Art. And I have had my hand surgery, hence the odd shape of my hand. My hand is like, I can't bend this finger here like that because that's what they had to repair. So I have this yoke splint on that kind of just keeps it from moving. So that's why my hand looks weird. That's fun. So I thought, let's try to do something where I'm hammering a lot and I'm dominant right hand. So we'll figure it out. I'm just going to do a bunch of stuff with my left hand because I want to do some art. So this is a failed project, obviously. I was trying to do, there's an artist, she or he, I don't know who it is. They make like these whales that look like they're in water. I couldn't do it. And so I scraped it. I had a bunch of stuff on here, but I have this panel still and I want to use it. And so I think I'm going to make it a chessboard. But in order to do that, I'm going to have these pieces. They're supposed to be 2x2. They're not quite 2x2, but they are all the same size. I had to go through a bajillion of them to get to the ones that were the same size. So I'm going to paint the sides of these black because in the end I'm going to sand and it's going to sand off black in the front. If I do the front, I'll paint that later. But I want to put a black coat of resin on the inside of this. But I also want to distress it. So I'm going to take various things here that I have. I have like some screws, some bigger screws. I've got a hammer. I have some metal balls of different sizes. I've got a hammer. A lot of different things. And I'm just going to beat the tar out of this thing. I have this thing that's kind of hollow. So I even have a snake thingy that I can beat into it. And so I'm just, I have a key. I have a metal key. So I'm just going to put various shapes into the edging of this using my left hand. And certainly I'm going to goggle up because I like my eyeballs intact without items in them. So I'm going to goggle up. I'm going to put on some classical music while I beat the snot out of this thing. And I will come back when I'm done beating it. Because that's fun. I'm done beating this thing. I like the rounded kind of edge that it got when I just took the hammer to the edge like that. So it wasn't so square. I like that. And so I concentrated on doing that. I didn't want to do the inside because it is a canvas and you can knock the sides off if you hit them too much on the inside. So I left that. But I do like the distressing that I got on here because it's not like so evident, but it's there. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of a sanding block. I don't know. Some people are really triggered by this sound. So sorry about those two little swipes. I'm going to take the sanding block and kind of roughly go over it. I will take the sound out of it for y'all. And then I'll come back. So I will be right back. So that is all done. Now I was going back and forth about whether or not to paint the base black. Let me put all this stuff away. Because I do have a color scheme in mind on this. And I think I'm going to go with the black and gold, basically. I'm not trying to hide it. I'm going to go black and gold color scheme. But if I do opaque black enough, I won't necessarily have to paint the black. But I also don't want to have to put so thick of a layer of resin that it fills it up too much. Because I do kind of want it countersunk in the end. So I am going to paint it all black. Going back and forth again about whether or not to spray paint it or brush paint it. I can do either. Maybe it's so rainy outside and I don't want to deal with spray painting. So we're gonna go black, and I'm just gonna use, I like this medium black that I have, but it's like super thick. It's super heavy body. And so when you paint it on, it takes so long for it to thin out enough to dry because it's just really heavy body paint. So I think I'm gonna just go with the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic Black, the soft body black, I should say. I'm not gonna use my Amsterdam Oxide Black because it ain't that serious. It's just a base coat, y'all. I dropped so much stuff right there. So I'm just gonna go with the soft body black, which means I may have to do a couple of coats because this is thinner. But I'd rather do a couple of thin coats. I'm not worried about covering up this because the resin will take care of that. But I'm gonna do a couple of thin coats of the soft body black. And then I'm also gonna use it to paint, again, all the sides. I'm not gonna worry about the bottom of it, of the squares. And I'm gonna elevate this off my table because I wanna paint the sides of my canvas too, on my board too. So let me just grab some cups here and elevate it off my table. And then I'm gonna use the blow dryer to dry this to speed it up so I can pour my first layer of resin tonight. There, so that's what we're gonna do. It'll be on an Uber fast forward for the beginning. I don't think you really need to see the whole thing of me doing this because that's just a lot of painting and that's all it will be. Stop with your drops. And so let me show you really quickly what I mean as far as painting the sides, because I'm going to end up sanding this. And so I'm just going to paint the sides of these because those won't be sanded, but because I'm putting black only on the bottom layer of this and the other layers will be clear, I want to make sure that these are black on the sides so you don't see this blondish wood coming through. It doesn't matter if it gets on the top in the end because I'm going to sand it and it will go away. But I do want all the sides of these. There's 32 of these painted. It's so weird to paint, to hold things with my right hand because I can't hold it quite properly. So I have to hold this really light because otherwise I can't flex enough to hold anything properly. It's ridiculous. But I'm so glad I got my surgery and my hand's getting fixed. So I'm grateful, right? Let's be grateful. So that's all I'm going to do the sides of all of these. Like that. I'm going to paint the bottom and the sides of this piece. And then I'll be back to pour some resin. Maybe I just won't. You guys don't need to watch me do that. It's just painting. I'm just going to take a brush and paint it. You guys know how to do that. So I will see you back in a moment. Bye. All right. I brought you guys back for the last side. And also, because I've changed my mind about the inside, I'm just going to use, stick them together a bit. Oh, that's what happens when you paint things and put them together wet. They stick together. So let me break these apart really quickly as they are drying together. And I don't want to deal with that later. A couple more. Woo. Wow. Okay, so I have decided that I don't want the inside black. I'm going to first paint it white because I want the inside gold. And I'm not going to just try to do, there's no gold that's going to be strong enough to cover this first go. So I'm just going to paint it white first. But I just wanted to show you the distressing because it actually worked pretty well. So I haven't done this side. Every other side is done. And then I'm going to take a blow dryer to all of it and dry this part so I can paint it white. But just as you lightly brush on, you can see all the distress marks that I got from beating the nonsense out of this board. And that was very satisfying. But I do want them all fully covered right now. I will add some accent later, some gold accent later. But for now, I do want them all fully covered. So I'm making sure I get into all those marks to make sure they are nice and filled in with this black. And then we'll go from there. And let me get a little bit of the paint off my finger because I don't want to squirt any more from that bottle. I just refuse. Make this work for now. And then I'm going to use my blow dryer. Maybe I do need to squirt a little more from the bottle. I didn't want to Now that's way too much, but that's okay. Just get it all in the marks. So everything is first and foremost black. And then I will add color in the process. It's not going to be at the end, certainly, but it will be in the process. I'll add some color to this side, to these edges. So we do have some, so you can see the distressing marks that we made. Because right now they blend into the black. So I'm just going to use this, get in all the other marks where I might not have seen or not covered them properly. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. So, blow dryer, dry the center, and I'm going to paint that white, dry it, and then come back with gold, and we'll paint that together. So, I will be back. All right, guys, I am back. I have this at an angle. Let me try to get this glove on this hand. There we go. I have this at an angle because I decided, first of all, that I used the Meeden Brilliant Gold, I believe it's called. Yeah, the Meeden Brilliant Gold. This one, if you've ever used the DecoArt Americana Metallics in their 24 karat gold, it's like that in that it's very, very reflective. But the lovely thing about it being reflective is that it doesn't have to really fully coat. So let me look at what you see in the mirror or in the camera. You can see a few spots where you can see the white beneath it, but it's so reflective that it won't really matter. But I also decided the inner lip here, I got some gold on the black, but that's okay because I'll end up having to repair that in the end, and that's fine. But I decided on the inner lip, I want it to be leafed. So I have my gold leaf behind me. I cannot stand leafing most of the time because it's just so messy. And so I'm just going to leaf the sides here. So my leafing is, I think, 5 inches across by 5. Whoop. It's just this. And so all I'm going to do, I already get my hair out of the way. I already painted the sides with the tack-it over and over. I did that over an hour ago. So it's nice and ready to be stuck. Some of it will get onto the base, but that is no problem. And this will not be perfect because it doesn't have to be. So I'm going to grab a brush here. I should have probably been prepared before I have to go with one hand holding this. But I wasn't. Oh, there's the brush I wanted. Whew, sorry, I cannot do things right with this hand. So I'm just going to have a brush. And I'm just going to brush this on. I probably should also see what I'm doing better by doing it at a different angle, but I didn't do that either. So this is what we're working with. So I'm just gonna brush it on, take it off. So it's gonna take me a while to do all this because there's a lot of surface to this. I don't know if I ever told you how big this canvas is. I think it's 20 by 20 total. The inside is 18.5 by 18.5. Yeah, it's a 2020 canvas, and it's a wood canvas, obviously, because this is wood. And so all I'm going to do is go along, add this to the sides, and get that done like so. So it's nice and reflective. I will deal with all the overage later. I don't care that much. This is just really inexpensive leafing. So I'm not, bothered by waste. And whatever I do waste, I can always gather and use some more, use it again. Because you don't have to use leafing in its whole form. You can use it however it sticks, which is why it doesn't matter if it rips apart, because I just stick it down and it'll stick to where the tack-it over and over is. And where I've missed pieces, you can just add them in and it'll stick. So that is this part. And then I get to show you my chest pieces that I'm using, because they're not going to be your standard. I have some standard that I'll use also for different ones. But for this one, I want to show you my chest pieces, and I'll just show you now. Let me get this side done here, and then I'll finish that off camera because it's just the same thing. So once you get it all done and covered, you can go through. And it doesn't matter so much if it's not covered at the base because that will have resin on it. I just want the top most part to have the gold leaf. But anyway, I'm super excited. I bought these chest pieces from Temu over a year ago. Maybe almost 2 years ago. Whew, my hand hurts. Sorry. My ibuprofen is worn off and I'm not taking any more narcotics for this surgery. But they are Egyptian chess pieces. And so, sorry, I just pulled this one out of a little bit of silicone. This is the king. I don't know anything about chess, but this is the king, I think. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it because it's so reflective. Let me see what you see, because they're metal. So let me see. So they're really, really great detail. And so what I did, I have some stencil paper that's basically like clear, and I cut it to size, and it was perfect. The size of these chess pieces was almost perfect to mold it around my alcohol bottle here. So I did that. Some of them I made a little bigger because some of the pieces are just slightly bigger, but for the most part, it was perfect to mold around here. Stuck them down with some glue, and I'm going to demold one. I'm going to demold the actual king because I had to do the king over because I messed that one up because it was too close to the side of my mold. Sorry, my hand hurts. My little brace is too tight to my finger. So this is what it came out to. So all I'm going to do first is take the tape off here where I can. This one's easy just to do that. Take the tape off. Then this is just hot glue. Get rid of that part. And then I didn't seal them so tightly to the bottom, so I know that there's a little bit of silicone on the bottom of this. So I'm just going to take my blade here and kind of go around to cut the excess silicone off, just because it's easier to do that now than trying to open wide this opening. I guess if that makes sense. So taking off the excess silicone right now makes it easier to unmold this piece. And I used I'll put the link in it. I don't remember what this silicone is called, and it is across the room, but it's a really super, super soft silicone. So there's some more tape there. So I'm just going to take my blade and cut that off. And it's super clear. So like you can see, I will never have to worry about these not being filled, which I am thrilled about. But because I don't want to fight this silicone, it again is super soft. You can also see when it is parting from the blank. But I'm going to throw some alcohol in it. So I'm just going to peel that open a bit and spray some alcohol down there on 2 different sides. And so then that way you can see when it starts to loosen from the actual blank. And so I'm just twisting it a bit to get the alcohol to go down there. And then I didn't pour them so deep. That's the thing you want to make sure that you don't have too much above the piece that you're molding, because then you can pop them. I don't get enough alcohol down to the top. So I'm going to just put a little more alcohol in there so it works it all the way to the top of this piece. And it's important for me now because I don't have the strength in my finger to be able to peel these down. I just don't have the strength. So for the most part, of course, this one will make a liar out of me. I can use one finger and pop this out, but I can also pull it out because the alcohol is down there. So I'm just using a good finger. So that slips right out, and I'm left with a lovely blank that's perfect. So I have all these pieces that I need, 16 pieces. I was like, what am I trying to say? 16 pieces. They're super cute, and I'll demold them and show you the different shapes. In fact, nope, I put it away. I was going to show you. I have them all there, but I'll unmold them all and show you all the different shapes because they're like that. So that was the king. This is the queen. And then I don't know all the names of these things, but this is the one that stands right next to them. But so I'll look up the names before I show you all of them. But for now, I'm just going to get the rest of this molded or leafed. And then I'll come back with these demolded, and then we'll pour the first layer of resin in here. So I will be right back. All right, guys, I am ready to mix my resin. I got, dropping stuff. I got all my pieces mixed or taken out. And let me see. I'll show you those real fast. But I need to get a chest board because I don't know what the names of these pieces are. Let's see, chess pieces, names. So I'll show you each one once I get there. The way that they have them set up for this one, I have the king. I think I showed you. Let me move it over here so I can see what you see. Oh, dropping so much. My hair. I feel like I'm so clumsy. I don't even know where that one bounced off to. I'll find it in a second. I don't care right now. I'll find it in a second. I'm so clumsy with this big thing on my hand, obviously, because it's my dominant hand and I'm clumsy without it. So let me show you the pieces. This set, this one will have, this is the king. So let me show you. That is the king. Lovely. Then I have the queen here. She's gorgeous. And then they have the bishop is this bird thing, which I'm calling it the bird. But this is the bishop for this set. And they have, you know, fake hieroglyphs on them. And they're super pretty. And then the knight is this cat thingy. Love that. Love it so much. That is not a hole. It doesn't go all the way through. That's just the mark on the piece itself. So it's solid. And then the last piece is the rook. No, sorry, the last piece in the back is the rook. And this is like the national monument thing, the Washington Monument shape thing. And then the pawns, I know that name. They're these little pieces. So I think these are so cute. And so those are the pieces I made. And as you can see, this, oh, let me show you, let me tell you the name of my resin, my silicone. It is the, oh, it's this Chang TG one. Let's see, that one. Super, super soft. I absolutely love it. And it comes in 41 ounces each. So net weight when parts A and B is 282 ounces. But look how clear it is. Look how beautifully molded it is. You can see straight through into all the detail. Let me get that so you can see it. So I absolutely, and you can color it. This is just a little piece of the bottom of that piece. Love these, love this silicone so much. But anyway, that's not the point. Here, I need to find that piece and where it bounced. I'm gonna mix my resin. Because I have this janky hand, I can't mix it. So I'm using the Resiners mixer. This thing is fabulous. I'm not sponsored because nobody knows me as a resin artist. I just bought it. And the reason I bought it is because I had the Let's Resin one like this and it worked. But y'all, be careful because it was dead. So I used my Let's Resin dual sided UV lamp cord to charge my Let's Resin mixture. And I will show you a picture. I left my house with it charging, which I would think it was super benign. However, I came home and I was like, what's that smell? Because it burned up that thing. Let me show you. This is what happened. So I use a Let's Resin cord for a Let's Resin piece. And this is what I came home to. An absolute burnt out, melting plastic. Could have burned my house down, y'all. Don't change their cords. Apparently they are not interchangeable, even though they're both the USB-C cord. Don't change them. It's dangerous. So I've learned my lesson there. Never do that. But love the Resiners one because the Let's Resin one, you have to manually twist this one. This one, they're both powered. So you just press and hold the button there and turn it on. And you can see they'll give you a battery percentage. And it powers itself up. This little silicone mat is super strong. And then there's power here, press and hold. And there's 3 modes. It immediately will spin. It spins very rapidly for 90 seconds. If you press this again, it goes to F4, which is just always on. And I'm sure you can do something else with that, but I can't remember. Or forward 4. So just forward constantly until you turn it off. But if you press it again for that 90 seconds, you can choose whether it's going forward at 1 speed or back or reverse. So you can choose your direction, and it also has the battery percentage on it too. And so I will just put this in like so. It kind of clicks in. You use that button down there. This one goes off pretty quickly, which is nice, but it stays on long enough for you to get this in place. And this is the T-Expert 4-hour fast cure resin. Is it? No, I'm lying. This is the J-Diction 4-hour fast cure. I just push it down until it stops itself, because that means it hit the bottom, and then I lift it up just slightly, and then I just turn it on. And I just let this mix. I time it for 5 minutes. This is a thicker resin, which is why it's moving this. But I timed this for 5 minutes, so I just put it on continuous. I'm gonna mix my resin. I'll scrape it as well as I can with my hand after the fact, and then I'll be back. All right, I've got my resin all mixed up. I didn't have to do much of any scraping of the sides. That mixture is literally top notch. I love it. So this is all mixed. It's the 4-hour fast cure, so it goes off quickly. It gets a very thick resin. And I'm just gonna add a little bit. I'm gonna add 2 different golds here. One primary and one a little less. I mixed up 14.5 ounces of resin. I didn't mean for the half, but you know, your girl got a heavy hand with her left hand, so that's what you got. You got 14.5. So I'm gonna add a little bit of alcohol to these cups so I can grab some floating gold. I'm probably gonna use, this is the Let's Resin Rustic Gold. So I'm gonna use a little bit of that one, probably primarily in the, let's see, what do I wanna do? I guess I should have chosen my colors before I went along and did all this, but I didn't. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna use the Rustic Gold in the big cup because I'm gonna use this more sparkly gold in the smaller cup. So these are floating pigments, or this one is a floating pigment, so it will probably try to take over a bit. So that's why I'm gonna use it. Well, I don't mind that it's the primary color. And I think I'll add a different gold to that one too, just to brighten it up a bit. Goodness, y'all. And then I have to be done for the day. I've done way too much on this hand for today. Your girl is tired. My hand hurts. I'm going to add a little bit of the Antique Gold by Let's Resin into that too, because it's a little bit brighter. And I don't need to make them very, very opaque, because this is going to spread out, and I did underpaint it. All these little bits of loose leaf, I don't mind, because they're going to float around in here, and that's okay. That actually is very fine for me if I have little bits of loose leafing in there. So let me get this mixed in. And I'm going to put some resin into this little cup. All right, guys, I decided to speed this part up because these parts can take so long and make these videos take so long. So I want to speed it up. All I did was I mixed those 2 golds, and then I actually added some leafing in another cup that I ended up using tweezers to pick out because I didn't like it in the end, because it caused like streams or streaks in the resin that I didn't like. But I did a quick dirty pour. I'm going to use my heat gun to move my resin around. I'm going to pick that out, that leafing, and then I'm going to throw a little pattern in there that you'll see in the end here. That after I turn off the camera, I turned it into swirls rather than the pattern that you'll see. And because this resin is so thick, because it's the 4-hour, the pattern stayed very well. And so I'm going to resume this video at the next segment when you see all this done. Okay, bye.
I held on to his promise. If you wonder what the future
All right, guys, this is nice and cured. I did the lines that you saw before I ended the video last night, but then I was like, that's a little organized for me. So I decided to go back and just do some chaotic nonsense and swirls. And I like these much better. But now I was going back and forth because I'm going to put a clear coat on here. Let me move my heat gun. I had to put it down on the floor to cool last night. I was going back and forth because I'm going to put a clear coat on this first. Oh, also, this is a wood board and I leveled this, but I didn't level this. And so there was a little, I had to turn it around because it was flowing where there's a little less on this side than that side. So this morning I took my 4-foot level and leveled this. So it should be perfectly level now. And I was going to just do a flood coat of clear and then put my wood pieces on. But then I'm just using more clear than I need to because the wood pieces are thick, or thicker than that flood coat. So I'm going to actually outline my grid because the pieces aren't going to go to the walls. There's going to be a border. I'm going to outline my grid, and I know I need to come in 1.5 inches from all these edges, and this happens to be 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to use a gold pen because I'll be able to clean it off, but just in case it doesn't want to come off perfectly, I'll be able to, I'll be able to kind of blend it in with the background. So I'm just going to use a gold pen and kind of come tight to my ruler to give myself a nice mark on all 4 edges here. And this is going to be handmade, so it's not going to be perfect, and I'm okay with that. So get tight to that wall over there. I'm going to leave it up a little bit because to get tight to the wall after you, there's a little bit of a lip for resin because I poured resin against it, so it's not going extremely tight to the side edge. I'm trying not to move this since it was level. Sorry. There we go. And I'll just make sure it's level again before I pour resin on it. So you see it comes off that wall just a little bit because there's a lip of resin right there. So I'm just kind of getting it to the side wall, leaving it up a little bit. And that'll get it more accurately 1.5 inches, although not that one. This one. I love this little square. I got this from the dollar store a couple of years ago, I think. I love the dollar store because this doesn't have to be expensive. Why do I need an expensive square? As long as it's actually square, it can be $1.25. I'm okay with that, you know? So now to the point where I need to lay out my grid. It's hot. It's finally snowing in my city. Very little and very wet snow. So I know it's not going to stick. But I love snow, and I'm glad it's there. So for here, I'm going to go straight across. And these are manufactured in mass, so they are not perfectly square, and I'm okay with that. And so I know I need to keep them down, so it's just a matter of crawling it like that. You know what I mean? And lining them up as well as possible. And so it will take a while to do that. So I'm going to just do that like I'm doing, like you would have a spacer when you're laying tile. And just making sure that this is slightly longer than it is wide. So it's slightly out of square. So just doing the best to make it so they are as great as possible. So all I'm going to do, I'm trying to decide what I want to use for that. And I think it's going to be the super glue. Because I want to make sure that it stays down while I pour my resin. And so I have Appel, miter rappel, I think is what you call it, the two-part. So you put the liquid on and then you spray the spray and it sets it. So I think that's what I'm going to use. It's going to take a while just because I'm going to go slowly. And I want to make sure that this is as good as I can get it, basically.
It's gotta work. It's so working. For the Lord is good, and his mercy endures forever. For the Lord is good, and his mercy endures forever. He's good, real
Alright guys, so this is completely developing as I'm making it because I never have a concrete plan. I know I wanted black and gold. So I got all these done. I didn't end up using the super glue because that's ridiculous. So I had a Deception Special Temu big roll of double-sided tape. This is how big it is, Deception Special. But I just used 4 to 6 slices of, or pieces of this on each piece of this wood. And so those are nice and stuck down. But then I decided I didn't want all the gold on the border. So I'm gonna take my Meeden Oxide Black, no, Intense Black color. And I'm gonna paint the border around. It's gonna take like 3 coats because as you can see, it's not transparent, but I'm painting on shiny resin. So it's not gonna take quickly. But then I had another idea for the border, which I'm super excited about. But first, I'm gonna paint this border black. Then I'm gonna come back with my Promise 1 hour epoxy and seal the edges of my wood. I see a piece of white that I don't want there. I'm glad I came to the back of my camera because now I can see if I can find my blade. Oh, I put it away. That I have a piece of white here from my tape. So I'm gonna paint the border black and then I'll come, like I said, I'll do the Promise 1 hour epoxy and I'm gonna seal the edges of this, let that set, and then we'll come back and do a clear layer on top of here. So I will be back. Again, sorry for all the skips, but this video would be 6 hours long if I did it all on camera. So I'll be back when I have all this border painted a couple of coats. Okay, all right, you guys, I am ready to seal this wood. I'm just finishing the last like few seconds of mixing this Promise. I don't know how much this is because I have put my Promise, you get the big pump sticks for big pumps, big gallons of resin. But if you cut the stick down, you can put that pump on this Promise bottle and only use what you need. So I did 4 pumps of A and 4 pumps of B, and that should be enough to coat these. So let me just get that out and put that down. I have an old sacrificial brush that I'm going to use. Then I'm just going to go along and coat each side, of this. The paint is for the most part dry. If it's not dry, it's okay. It's very hard to do this with this glove on because it makes my brace very tight on my finger, which is not a bad thing, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna go coat each one of these like this. Messy, sloppy, it doesn't matter because I'm gonna end up putting a clear coat down anyway. But I don't want a bunch of breath coming out of the sides of these pieces of wood because wood is porous, so it'll off-gas in your resin. And that's when you just are battling bubbles the whole time. And I don't want to do that. And since I'm not putting it over the top of these pieces yet, I don't worry about the top so much because I'm not going to put that much resin in there. But I will put it along the sides so it's easier just to seal them now. And like I said, this is clear, so it doesn't really matter. It will disappear under subsequent layers of resin as I make it sloppy like this. But I would rather, and it also is gonna serve to making it a little thicker here or runnier. Putting a lot on is gonna serve to kind of seal the underside of the wood too. So I taped it down, but now it'll be less likely that the other layers of resin will seep under these pieces of wood as much, because it's creating that barrier on the bottom surface of the wood too. And so this will do me well, I think. That is all cured. And so I decided against my 4-hour fast cure for the next layer because I don't want to mix that much. And I want to put a nice big layer on here. So I decided to mix a little bit of my Hey Clear resin. Yeah, it's the Hey Clear epoxy resin, the 1-to-1 that I'm using. And so I mixed that. I mixed 20 ounces, 24 ounces of it because I kind of want to fill this up a bit more. Now, I went to debubble this, but the gasket on my vacuum chamber is failing, so I need to replace it. So it wasn't going to debubble all the way. It's okay, because I'm going to use it. I'll use a heat gun to kind of pop bubbles, and ultimately this is big enough to where even 24 ounces is going to pour clearer, or not so deep. But I've got it here. It's nice and bubbly because, again, I couldn't get it all debubbled. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a little bit into each cavity here. Not up to the top, certainly, but I also wanted more working time. And if I were to try to pour this much of that 4-hour fast cure, it would have completely annihilated my working time. And so I didn't want to do that. For the ones on the inside, I'm kind of thinking I want this a little degassed more than that. So I'm actually going to pause here, break this up into smaller cups, and debubble it in my Let's Resin debubbler. It's warm enough now where it will debubble well, but I can see bubbles up against the wood there, and I don't want that. So I'm just gonna put this in a few little cups, degas this in the debubbler for at least 5 minutes, and then I'll be back. And I'm just gonna use these old cups from last night. Ultimately, they were all gold. If I get a few chunks in there, it really won't matter. So let me pull my sticks out from those cups. And I'm gonna decant this into 4 different cups, and I'm gonna degas this because it's got too many bubbles. And that's what happens if you don't have a complete vacuum. When you're trying to vacuum things, it will degas it a little bit, but ultimately you're just left with bubbly mess because the bubbles produce, but they can't go anywhere really. The vacuum was not strong enough to pull it up completely. And so I'm gonna put this in 4 different cups, put this on here and degas that for a while. Maybe 3 cups, I can put 3 cups in there at one time. So I'll do the 4th cup while I'm pouring. So I will be back. Okay, so I'm down to the last 10 seconds on my 4th cup here. The Let's Resin debubbler debubbled my resin perfectly. 3, 2, 1, stop. So I forgot to mention, while I was mixing it on my Resiner's mixer, after 4 minutes or so, I threw in a little spoonful of the Eye Candy 14K Carat Nugget Gold, just for a little sparkle, since we're going for a gold theme. And so it's kind of like crushed crystal, but gold. So, got my last little cup here. I'm just going to take my alcohol, give it a nice short burst of a squirt on the top to kill the surface bubbles. One more. And I will pour that one last. It looks like I'm probably not going to have enough to fill it as much as I want, but that's okay because I'm going to put it on the heat mat and I'll do another layer. But I'm just going to use my cups here and fill up these squares. I don't need to worry about those squares on the outside. They'll get there when I do the rest. And I know this is still going to seep because they're not, solid. So it's going to seep through and that's fine. If I get it on the top of these squares, I'm actually going to take a squeegeeing tool, a scraper tool, and get it off the top of the squares because at that point it's just wasteful and I don't want to waste resin. So just filling them up as much as I can right now and then letting them drain and kind of go where they're gonna go. And then I will just leave this cup here, whoops, to drain and grab another. Sorry, my hand's shaking and it's just this position for my hand. It doesn't like it so much, but that's okay. So now all the inner squares are full. So I'm just gonna go along, filling the outer squares and then just kind of allowing the resin to flow is where it's gonna go. It'll eventually get to the whole surface, obviously. Let that one be right there, whoops. Go from here and start with these. Again, taking care not to waste the resin, putting it on top of the squares because I don't need it there. That one. All right. One more cup. I'll leave that one be right there. And this one, I'll just go along the perimeter. And then everything will level out. I did make sure my board was level on my heat mat here. All right, so now I'm gonna get a scraper. I use the one that I just cleaned. And then I was thinking, because I do want interest in the center, I'm gonna use some German glitter glass. It's a little bit too much resin right there. And I'm gonna drop it kind of in the center, in the squares that are gold. So let me grab that. I have a couple of different golds, kind of a lighter gold and a darker gold. So I'm just gonna use a clean glove and just drop some in to different squares, just so there's a little interest in each square. I figured why not start the process of making the chess pieces. And so I've decided what I wanted to do. I was going back with the black and gold theme, and certainly I'm going to go with the black and gold theme, but I think for each piece they have the base on it. So the base, I'm going to pour these in black up to the base, and the base will be gold, and then vice versa for the other set, because this is just one side of the chessboard. And so I'm going to use black mica powder because I don't want shiny, and the molds aren't going to be shiny anyway because it's not I didn't create a mold from a shiny piece, but it was a little metallic-y, and so I don't necessarily want that. So I'm using this graphite powder. That's kind of typically what I like to use for my black, is graphite powder rather than my mica powder. I don't know why, I just like it. Ooh, and I'm just spraying it everywhere, but that's okay. So I'm just going to dissolve it in some alcohol here. Goodness, sorry. I'm just spraying it. Trying to get this done, not rapidly, but efficiently. And so let me pour a little bit of I've mixed up only 8 ounces of resin. I poured alcohol into the king and measured it, and it came out to about a ½ ounce. So I feel 8 ounces should be enough for all of these. So this is a black, but it's more graphite black. But also I'm doing this because I want weight to these. And resin is not heavy at all when it comes to this little amount. And so I want weight to them. So on the bases, I'm going to add a sand and a metal powder, not a metallic mica, a metal powder to make the bases heavy so that there's some substance to them. Because again, sometimes when you make just resin pieces, they're so lightweight, it doesn't feel substantial enough. Again with the voiceover, because this is going to take a while, I'm going to put my resin into this squeeze bottle and then use the squeeze bottle to pour the resin in. And that's just so I can control the resin static. When you pour resin, sometimes it's staticky, and I don't want a bunch of it on the base because I don't want to clean it up. So I'm just throwing this into the squeeze bottle. I'm going to squeeze these in. You'll see me do, I think, 2 of them. and then I'll cut to the next segment. So, all right, here you go.
Yeah. Take my hand, follow me out of the land of anxiety, where we all.
All right, guys, I am ready to put my border on. Well, I like how the gold and black looks. I'm just not going for that today. So what I have, I'm just mixing some 1 hour promise. That's all done. Is I have this faux leather that I cut into 45-degree angled strips. I really like how this looks, and I think it'll add just kind of a little bit of ruggedness to this. My resin is still not going to be above the level of the block here, so that's why I want to put these here right now, so I can sticky. Sorry, some of the resin's still slightly sticky, so I can sink it for when I sand this. I don't want to sand this, so I'm going to have it a little lower than my wood blocks or my wood squares first, and then I'll put resin on it. So for this, I was kind of debating whether or not I wanted to use real glue or resin, and I just want to use resin because of the speed of it all, and I don't like putting glue under resin because it can kind of cause cloudiness if you don't let it dry really, really well. And so for this one, I'm just going to brush on some of the 4 hour where this is going to be, because I really don't need it in here at all. So I'm just going to brush it on, and then I guess didn't need this much. I did 7 pumps because I couldn't tell what I would need. But that's okay. I have other things I can use this on. But I just want to make sure the whole border is going to be secured down. And so that's why I'm making sure I have a nice coating of this resin on this whole border. And then this should be dry in an hour. And then we'll be able to put on a final coat, or not a final coat of resin, but a coat of resin. I'm kind of debating whether or not I want to sand these down and paint them before I bring the resin up to the level. That way I just make sure I don't scratch my resin. You know what I mean? Because I really don't want to do that. Now, instead of wasting this, I probably will just put some of this within the squares, just because why not? But for now that this is all there and secured, I'm just going to secure these pieces in. Hopefully they are all cut well. They're going to be under resin in the end, so I don't mind that I'm getting resin on them right now. That is absolutely okay, because they are going to be under resin. I'm just going to use a poking stick of some sort, the bigger one, because my hand does not want to grab that. Let me grab just a cheapo. There you go. These have a nice angled edge to them, so I can poke that down. So just making sure I get that all securely on. And then before I put the next one on. Now I have them where they're lined up. I really probably should have made sure I'm aligning the right ones with the right ones, but I didn't. So these, that way the squares at the cut mark, these two were cut at the same time. So those squares line up pretty well. And so that's my goal there. If they're slightly bigger, it's okay, because the corner is deep and dark, so you won't be able to tell so much if that is slightly raised on that. Now these were not cut at the same time, so they probably won't line up very well. Oh, they actually do. They line up okay. I'm okay with that. They don't have to be perfect at all. There we go. So just making sure and getting that brush and pressing down here to make sure they're below the level of the wood, or at least at the level of the wood. So like that, I don't want that to come up. So certainly I'm going to babysit this while this is curing, because it is such fast cure. I want to make sure this stays down. I don't want to have it floating up at all or having bulges anywhere. And so I just like this border. It just adds a little something for me. Okay guys, this is all done. It is sanded roughly. I just used the Dremel because it's not a big deal if there's a little bit of texture in there, because it's going to be covered with resin in the end. But I want to paint each one of these squares. I didn't do that one very well, but that's okay. It will be fine. I want to paint each one of the squares black now. So I'm going to just use my Meet In Black again. Where did I just put all my paintbrushes? Right here. Where's the one I want? Let's go with this one. I'm just going to use my Meet In Black and simply take my time and very carefully with this freaking hand paint each one of these squares black. It will not be something I have you watch, because it's going to take me forever, because I have to go slowly and my grip is weird. And I'm going to clean off my resin as I need to, but I'm just going to paint each one black, probably a couple of coats, because I like it to be very saturated, very opaque, and covered. So that is what I'm going to do now, and I will come back, and the phone's dying anyway. I'll come back when this is all done and dry, and then we'll make sure we've got a final wipe down of everything before we pour our final coat. So I will see you probably tomorrow morning, maybe tomorrow morning. It's like 6 o'clock. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see you next in a moment. Bye. Sorry, y'all. Ill prepared. So yes, as I said, I finished these. These are the black ones, and I don't have any gloves on, but this is such a tiny amount of resin. And so I made maybe not enough resin, but I'm going to color it with the same gold that I used for the board. And then I'm also going to put some metallic powder in it, some copper powder. Do I have gold? I don't think I do. Let me check. No, I only have copper. So I'm going to put copper powder in it and sand to weigh it down. And so the metal powders are very heavy. So that's why I'm putting those in. And then the sand is just because I don't want to use all my metal powder. So I'm going to put a little bit of both of the golds that I used. Whoop, as I spill stuff. Sorry. And I feel like I'm going to put my gloves on. I don't know why. I just got really uncomfortable because I am spilling stuff. So I'm going to go put this in, and then I'm going to go grab my gloves too. I don't like my hand exposed right here. So let me put my gloves back on. And besides, who wants to see all my dressings, right? They look ridiculous. So there, that's better. Okay, so let me mix this in. And then I'm going to put some sand. This is the 1 hour promise again. I did, some of these sank a little bit when they got cured. And so I took a little bit of the promise 1 hour in the black and I filled them up just so they are nice and full up to the point where it's just the base that needs to be filled. So I'm going to grab the sand here. And this is just some white sand because that's what I've got. And let me grab a little cup so I can grab some of it. So I'm going to put some sand in, which is not as heavy as the metal powder, which is why I'm using both. And then I'm going to use the copper metal powder. And this may turn the resin a little reddy because it is copper. Maybe I'll use the stainless steel. I'll use the stainless steel. The copper is really strong. And so I'd rather it go more towards the gray than I do. I'd rather red. So I'll use the stainless steel powder. And so I'm going to use quite a bit because I want the weight. Get that mixed in here. And then I'm just going to fill these up. Stir it slowly. You don't want to inhale this powder, this metal powder. So just stir it slowly. So there, that's what I've got. So maybe, because this did really gray it, I'm gonna throw a little bit more of the gold powders in there and see if I can change the color. And if not, I may quickly try to brush these. And I was gonna try to really make sure I get the little drips out of the bases that from the black, but actually I don't think I'm gonna mind. I think it'll look more rustic to have some of that black coming through. So let me throw a little bit of my other gold in. Change that color a bit. Again, stirring slowly. Okay, yeah, I like that. Okay, that is a good color for me. All right, I'm gonna throw a little bit of alcohol in each, but not a tremendous amount. Hopefully I have enough now that I'm putting all this alcohol in it. If not, I'll just have to make a little bit more. And this stuff is super simple to make, so it mixes up really quickly because this is just, I think, 2 or 3 drops, pumps of the resin. And so it takes less than a minute to mix it up. And this is a hand cut mold, so I don't want to go all the way to the top, but I do want to have a nice base. So I will go there. All right, guys, I am back. I've done a couple things. They're all painted black, and then I used one of the Prime Primo gold markers to line them in black. But then I think I want to, this is stretch cord, so it's gonna be interesting to do this. But I kind of want to have a border here of the stretch cord just to kind of hide the border. Maybe, do I want it to? I don't know. Let's put it here and see, and then get another piece and see if it's obnoxious to have it both. I think it's obnoxious to have it both, maybe. Either way, I know I want it on the border inside, and I was sitting here trying to figure out how I wanted to connect it. And I think I'm gonna go with UV resin because the resin, the epoxy resin, when I use it, is gonna adhere to the wood. So it's not gonna be a problem because UV resin and epoxy resin, they like each other-ish, but they can be pried apart once cured. So I don't want that to have a problem. My hand is reaching the end of its rope today. So this will be, luckily after this, I have my mixer to mix the resin because my hand is done with me today. I'll show you one, if I can find one where you can see through it a bit. The pieces are looking really good. So you see, I have them, the black is all cured, and then I poured the gold. And so I think you can see through there, but I used the 1 hour epoxy, so that's gonna be super firm already. But I'm gonna try to get this done in one piece so I don't have to cut and put them together, and I don't have to have a bunch of seams. It's gonna take a while, so I was just gonna show you what I was gonna do. I got my high viscosity UV resin here. I don't wanna use it. I'm gonna use regular UV resin simply because I'm gonna put epoxy on here, so it's gonna kind of disappear into itself anyway. I have a pair of tweezers because I'm not going to touch close to this. And so I'm just gonna put a little bit of resin and kind of hold the tweezers in place, or hold the cord in place. It feels like I need a third hand, right? I don't know. It's gonna be a slow process. What do I wanna do, y'all? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it off camera because I'm gonna make this vertical so the resin sits so I can have I can use one less hand because I don't have 3 hands. But I will come back and show you after my resin is mixed up for the flood coat, and I will be back in a second. All right, that hiss tells me that my resiner, or my Let's Resin debubbler, is done. I have all the cording around. I decided against doing anything on the inside. And now I'm just gonna pour this final top coat. Now, I had no idea how much I needed, so I just mixed up a lot of resin. So this is 32 ounces of resin that I've mixed up. I need to grab a scraper So I can spread the cup here. Make sure it's not dusty. So I decanted it into smaller cups again because I can't put this big thing in that debubbler. I'm going to use this and just kind of the sand marks. I'm going to get this into those fast so I can make sure that they are nice and repaired essentially. Okay, speeding up again for time. All I'm doing first is using my resin to get into the scratches that I made with the deeper scratches I made when I was sanding, and then I will use my actual volume of resin and flood coat this baby. So that's all. I don't need to have that in real time. Here you go.
Giving our power to the enemy. In the midst of hurt and pain, I could have been dancing in the rain with my mind on higher things and the joy you'll bring. So I have decided to choose you for anything else. There's no more. There's no more room. I have decided. If it ain't lovely, if it ain't pure, I won't entertain it anymore. Now I choose you. I choose you.
Okay, sorry about the messy thing, but it was too much resin. So this is the queen. Love how she came out. So you see, perfectly level with her feet and her body. And then the pillar. Here's the bird guy. I can't remember what it's called in the game. I may have to clean them up just a little bit underneath, but they do have weight to them on the bottom. That part is heavier than the top. So you can see kind of it pulls it down quite a bit. So that is nice to move. Let's see, is that resin? I don't know, but that's the bird guy. This is one of the ponds. I know what those are because I had to make so many of them. They turned out wonderfully. And I love that the black is not black. So it looks a little more antique-y and worn. And then the Washington Monument type thing. Love it. And I haven't obviously demolded all the other ones. I'll get those done probably tomorrow. These were kind of straightforward, but I don't want to rip any apart. So I'll do those in the morning. I'll pour the other set and then come back when everything is done and show you the final results. So I will see you in just 1 second for you. Bye. All right, guys, welcome back. I thought yesterday was my final pour, but then I realized that I forgot to seal the top of the wood. So I got bubbles and I don't like them. And also I wanted to add this gold leafing border. So I did that. So now I sanded my piece before I did any of that. So I used a blade to kind of dig out the bubbles as much as I could. And then I'll use a micro brush because you'll get resin dust in those. And so I'm just going to use a brush and try to push the resin into there as much as I can, just so I don't see the resin dust. Because if I just was to pour this over, I'd still see that white because the resin wouldn't necessarily be able to get out. See, that's a little bit of dust that just came out from just digging in there. And so when you have these little bubbles, cut them open. And since I sanded it, all a little bit of the resin dust went into that bubble. But now by doing this, your bubbles will disappear completely. And if you don't do that, you'll just see a little bit of white where that resin dust didn't get touched. But dust of resin is still resin. So if you put fresh resin on it, it's going to go crystal clear. So I'm just going to take time to do that in all these little spots where if I can't get that in there, I'm going to get my blade and push it in there because I really don't want to see any of that dust. And so that just takes a moment. And I've mixed up 14 ounces of my J-Diction 4-Hour Fast Cure. I also sanded. I was going to paint the edges completely black again, but I actually like it with the gold. And so when I went to clean it up, I just took a paper towel with a little bit of the black on and just kind of brushed over the parts that looked like they were mistakes, where I had like white from the underpainting and stuff like that. And then just brushing it there will allow me to have a little bit of that gold coming through. And then I just took the gold, the brilliant gold, the medium brilliant gold, and dry brushed it just to add a little bit of gold on top of it. And I really actually like how that came out. And I'm glad I added the gold border. I think that just cleans it up and makes it look a little more polished and finished. So I like that too. I don't know why I keep going back and forth here. I could go like that. And just pour a little resin where I don't have a bubble and just draw from that, right? This little thing, you just keep being there. I don't want you there. So I'm just gonna pay close attention. I know I'm working with a fast cure, so I don't have a tremendous amount of working time. So I'm not gonna take all day. And if I didn't have these already prepared, I wouldn't have mixed my resin. But I know that these are cleaned out as much as I can. They're prepared for me to go in and do this. I know kind of where the bubbles are. That way I'm not wasting too much time because I don't want my resin to get really warm on me. There's a bubble there that I forgot, that I didn't see. So I'm just gonna poke through it to create a hole. And that way I can put resin down into it. And because I didn't sand it, there's no dust in there. So I'm not really worried about that one. So there's a couple more here. Yeah, all night, or for like 30 minutes or so after I poured this last night, I just kept watching the bubbles pop up. And eventually I just gave up. I was like, I'm gonna have to top coat it. Anyway, I'm going to take a shower and go to bed. So that is what I did. Because that was gonna be a losing battle. Because as much as I could continue to kind of pop bubbles, I was then just exposing it to more dust. So it was kind of like cover it up so you don't get big pieces of dust, but you will get bubbles, or keep fighting the bubbles and you'll get a big pieces of dust perhaps. And so either way, I would have to top coat it. And I would rather dig out a couple of little bubbles than try to dig out a big piece of dust or something. And I did have one, it looked like a little fuzz in here. And I think when I sanded, I got it out because it was pretty surface. So that was good. Another one here. And so I have this all prepped. I will pour this. I will spend about 5 minutes allowing for bubbles to come up and popping them with a heat gun or a torch. Probably a heat gun. I'm not quite sure yet though. And then I have a cover ready. I'm gonna cover it and put it to bed for the night. You guys, I'm so excited about how this turned out. I'm trying to get it filmed so you can see all the detail. So those are the gold pieces that I made off camera. And these are the black pieces. I absolutely love how this turned out. This is so amazing. I just love it. I don't even know what to say. I love the distressing of the frame. I'm so glad I didn't leave that just plain and smooth. I think it goes with the piece very well. Love the gold. I love the gold cord in there because it's so bright. It adds just kind of a little pop of color that you don't expect. But I'm so thrilled with this piece. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.